it's a shame we couldn't make this deadline. We should have. We should have anticipated some of these problems, but here we are, and I'm hoping in the next 24 hours we're going to be able to get through this, restore the program in a way that respects people's privacy, gets the data out of the hands of the government, but is still effective in protecting national security.
Senator Angus King of Maine on MSNBC earlier today criticizing the lapsed deadline to renew the Patriot Act. Now some senators are frustrated with Kentucky's Rand Paul for his earlier filibuster of the renewal. These senators say that Senator Paul politicized the debate on the Patriot Act's metadata collection, leaving fears that others who are in the Senate now seeking the presidency might try to use the floor to further their campaigns. Imagine that. Politics in a political body. For more, let's turn to our panel. Skyping in from Virginia, Richard Viguerie. I should amend that. He's joining us via telephone from Virginia, but he still is Richard Viguerie, the chairman of conservativehq.com. Skyping in from Washington, D.C., Ari Rabin-Havt, former advisor to Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid and host of The Agenda on Sirius XM Radio. Richard, to you first. To hear some of the senators criticize Rand Paul, you would think that politics were never practiced on the Senate floor.
Shocking. Of course, we know that Lindsey Graham and John McCain have never engaged in politics. In the United States Congress, they would never do anything like that. What we've got, JD, is almost a complete disconnect between our country's leaders and and typical Americans. The average American just doesn't have any confidence or trust in our country's leaders, and they certainly don't trust them with their private, email, phone conversations. And this is just the first skirmish almost of a long, range battle here that's going to rage for, maybe decades. But we're just seeing the first shots of a long battle between the American people and our political leaders who we don't trust.
Ari, a whole lot of senators want to run for president, no secret there. But in terms of moving the ball forward and coming to some sort of consensus, in retrospect, should President Obama have called the Senate into special session when they were at loggerheads last weekend to signal his willingness and the importance to get something done?
Look, Mitch McConnell should have called the Senate into it, should have never left. I mean, if this was so important, and as Mitch McConnell said, this is putting us in danger, if this put us at risk, then Mitch McConnell should have said, we're staying until we get this done. And Mitch McConnell, by the way, also shouldn't have voted to keep the USA Freedom Act off the floor. As much as a problem as I have with that bill, actually, if it was so important to pass and we couldn't have a break, then he, as Senate Majority Leader, actually could have gotten it done. The votes were there. He chose himself to block it. So he has, all these senators are sitting around John McCain, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, blaming Rand Paul, when Mitch McConnell, the person to blame for it not passing, is staring at him in the mirror.
Well, the Senate Majority Leader does control the schedule, Richard. Well, does Ari have a point?
Oh, I mean, he's got more than a point. Nothing to find fault with what Ari said. Absolutely. It's Mitch McConnell's Senate, and he had a responsibility, and he thought he had had a clever game plan, and he has egg on his face, quite frankly. And it's Rand Paul, kudos to him for standing up for what he believes in. I wish we had more senators to do that and didn't test the wind before they took every vote there. So yeah, Ari's right. It's Mitch McConnell's has got egg on his face today.
Yeah, he may have egg on his face, but I think Rand Paul still has the endorsement of Mitch McConnell. And let's get into the presidential sweepstakes as a name mentioned a little earlier. Lindsey Graham made it official. He announced in Central South Carolina that he is running for president. Ari, we'll give you first crack at your evaluation of Senator Graham's candidacy.
Well, far be it from me to judge how Republican voters will see Lindsey Graham. I'll leave that to my co-panelist, who has a much better sense from his decades of experience with Republican and conservative voters. I don't see Lindsey Graham as even a reasonable candidate. He won't make the Republican debates. I don't understand why he's running. I don't even think he'll get positive attention for himself. He seems to be running because he's angry at Rand Paul and wants to respond to that, and that doesn't seem to me like a winning platform.
Richard, what on earth is the strategy? Is it much besides senatorial vanity here?
Well, Well, I don't know if you picked the two of us to be on his program to disagree, but I haven't found anything to disagree with Ari yet. No, I mean, I think, one of the things I say often, JD, is you've got to have a base to run for president. Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, it doesn't matter. You've got to have a base. And it looks to me like Lindsey Graham's base is about 42 national neocons, and I just think, other than some people in the national media, he doesn't really have much of a base out there. And I think, it escapes me why he's running for president.
About a minute remains. Let's turn to the ruling from the Supreme Court today as the High Court came out in favor of Samantha Iloff, a Muslim woman who sued Abercrombie & Fitch for not hiring her based on their dress code. Now, she claims she wasn't hired because she wore a hijab, a headscarf, for religious reasons. With the minute that remains, is this an example of the court interfering in a way that transcends the First Amendment? Let me get your thoughts first on that, Ari. 20 seconds to you.
Sure. I mean, this was a wide-reaching decision, 8-1. I think the court basically held up what they've said all along, that your First Amendment, your freedom of religion, your freedom of religion in an individual action sense is a protected class, and you can act on it in public. And Abercrombie was clearly violating that in this case.
Final 15 seconds to you, Richard, for your evaluation.
Once again, I agree with Ari. I think that it's encouraging that the Supreme Court recognizes that we still have religious liberties under the First Amendment. So this might bode well for good decisions coming down from the court on religious liberties that will be coming up in June in future court decisions.
Well, this is great because we have agreement tonight from Ari and Richard. It's somewhat historic. Gentlemen, we thank you, and we're coming back.